Today is going to be some continued work on the UI for selecting files in my debugger. Yeah, want to be able to flip between source files, choose which one you're looking at. Last time I put in some infrastructure and started to elaborate on having a way to capture the keyboard. And this time I'll need to be drawing the UI and keeping track of which is the currently selected file, and then selecting and flipping to it. I have T, so nothing can go wrong. So to begin, I think the first thing I want to do, I think I'm going to give a go doing hot reloading for this. So I'm just going to set up my structure here, because if I don't have the right values in my structure, then when I reload, it's not gonna work, because you can't. The reload doesn't support changing structural memory layout. So we are doing file select. So I'm going to need a bit of extra information for when I'm selecting files. I need to know which is the currently. I'm going to pop up a list of all the available files. Obviously one of those is going to be the currently selected one, and I will need to then keep track of which of the other files in the list, or which of the files in the list my cursor is over, so that I can draw a highlight on it before I select it and actually change to that file. So I think for that I'm just going to start off with a selected file path index here. Yeah, let's start with that. So here is my input dialog, or my input capture. So when we are captured on a file select, then if escape's pressed, then we're going to quit out. But if we press up or down, we're going to move the cursor around. So I think what I want to know here is, what is my selected file path index? So the other interesting thing here is when I enter this mode, it's going to be on this piece of code here. So when I'm not in capture mode and I'm just in a normal mode, then when I press Control F, I want it to go into the file select. So that's what happens here. But this would be probably a good point to set this selected file path index. It's going to start off at 0 the first time, which will probably be the currently selected file. Then if we don't keep resetting it every time we open, it's always going to be the most recently selected file. Actually, that's not a bad set of defaults. So I think I might just stick with that. So what I'm going to do here is I want to advance. If I press up, I probably want the index to go down. So I'm probably just going to list them in index order to begin with. So let's take the selected file path index. So if I want it to go down, this is an unsigned value, so I want to take the number of available file paths. So I'm just going to put file path count here. So that's just going to advance it on by the number of the count. I'm going to take one away. And the reason I'm going to do this is going to mod this by the file path count. Now you would think that you could just take one away from the selected file path index and then mod it. Well, if this was a true modulus operation, that would be true, but it's not. It's the remainder operation. So, well, firstly, we're unsigned, so taking one away from this, if it was 0, would wrap it round, which isn't good, because there's no guarantee that moduloing it by the account would give the right value. But even if it wasn't unsigned, then it would be -1, and then this remainder operator wouldn't fix the sign, so I'd have to take the abs value of it. So this way, just by adding on the file path count and taking a 1, you keep it to be positive, but then you're essentially reducing it by 1 with the mod array, with the mod of this file count. So it'll wrap around correctly. So that's one way of doing it. It's not the only way of doing it. That's the way I'm going to do it. So this way, pressing down, I want to increase the index we have selected. And I want to just up here keep a file path count, which I think you can grab from one of the structures, probably main. I forget where exactly, so let's just have a quick look at my main. I think it's going to be in this executable. No, I think it's debug info. So decoded binary file is the structure we want to look at. So we've got debug info pointer, and in the debug info, which is up here, we've got a source file name count. So it's a pointer, source file name count. Now, one interesting thing here is I'm actually not checking to see whether we have debug information, which means this will crash. I think I do this here too. This will crash if there's no debug information, which isn't super great. What I think I will do I'll just make this all conditional on if main executable, which should always have a value, because there's no way to start debugger at the moment without having a selected executable. But so debug info. Just to be a little bit safe. I'm sure there's other places where I don't properly check that. There we go. Then you shouldn't even be able to get into here because the state doesn't get activated. Which is good enough for now. I mean, there'll be cases when that's not good. Now, why have I got an else here? Just hanging out. That doesn't make any sense. So I think I'm just going to get rid of that. Let me just check I didn't do something dumb in my formatting there. No. Okay. So now when you're in the file list, you can advance the selected count. So this is going to be on the pane. So the pane is the main file file select pane. Selected file path index. Let's quickly grab that. Okay, so that's just going to move that around. This is a bit busy. I don't really like how you can't read what's going on here. It's maybe a bit better. I always have a bit of a formatting issue. Oh, I know why this is. It's because I'm not using the correct Casey style here, which is what I've been trying to do with this program. It makes it a lot clearer to do this stuff where you've got else if ladders and things. Okay, so that's the selection. We don't actually render that at the moment. That's to do is still valid, which is I want to just be able to type letters in and have that reduce the list down to only those that contain that letter. Because that's something that I really like on most things, and I really miss it when it's not there. But this is just like first pass stuff. So we've got file path count, selected file path index. Right, well this needs to be shortcut, I think. So let's have pane file select pane. It's not much of a shortcut. the one problem of doing this kind of modulo thing. You can't just do plus equals or plus plus or minus minus because you're doing the modulo. Maybe I could do it anyway. So how about I do it in 2 lines like this? Pretty sure you can do this. Slightly neater. Oops. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so that's moving the thing up and down. We also want enter to select the currently selected thing, so input controls, input control. Is it enter? I think it's enter I want. Then we want to set the main selected file path index to be equal to our main file select pane selected file path index. I call these things the same thing. Source file name index is what I've called it here. Okay. Okay. I can live with that. Put a file name index here. Put a file path index here. Source file name count. Okay. Fine. So let's just fix up the rest of these. Let's change file path count. Let's just change file path to file name. Yep, 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 yep. Why didn't it find the other one? I think I needed to put a G in there. Yep. Okay. So this is going to set. It's not going to be enough, right? Because that's going to set which index, but we really want it to do all the loading stuff. And at the moment, the loading stuff is all of this. Feels like I should have like a switch source. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to take all this. And do internal void switch source to file by index. No, that didn't do anything. Did it? Yeah, it did. Okay, here we go. So we're going to need main memory. Here I'm going to have U32 source file name index. I think that's all I need. Got main here. Yeah, that seems good. And then let's go back to where we were calling that and replace with a new call, which is good because there were a lot of different places where that was happening. I think I've gone too far. So down here we deleted a bunch of stuff in... Oh no, I just copied it. Okay, so that's fine up. So the idea here was to leave all that intact, but instead call switch source to file by index, pass in main, and pass in the index we want, which will be what exactly? That. I'm not a fan of that. New source file name index maybe. So I'm toying with the idea of just like reading the current one out of here and just calling this update source or something. I think I like this better. It'd be even nice if I didn't have to pass whole of main in here, because it's kind of a big thing. So what I could do here is say that's equal to that. I think I might just do this thing again, where I do the mod separately. I could call this update source file. I'm just having a look at what the other way is actually going to look like. That's what it's going to look like. I'm not sold on it, but I'm going to do it because I don't want to waste any more time. So if I just grab that, and this time I just want to add one. Then I can get rid of all this. Is there anywhere else where I do this? Source, file name index. What's this? No, that's fine. It's fine. That's fine. That is all fine. This is another thing I do a bunch. Perhaps it's time to write a little macro for doing increment decrements around the modulo value. Maybe. Okay. I think that's all good. Let's go back to input controls to finish out this bit here. So now we've done the same thing, but we are changing this. In these ones, we're changing the selected file name index. And then here we just want to update this. So I think the way to do that is just to do switch main to this value. Okay, so now what I need to do is render it. One thing I could do for now, just to check this, is to print out what I've selected. File sent you, and then the name, and have that as main. We need to get the file name out, which is in the executables debug info. It's like source file names or something like that. I wish I remembered these names a bit better. In here, source file names. Is that what I said? I don't even know. We'll take that. Okay, so before we even render anything, I could have it just print out what we selected, so when we change to it, we can check it as correct. Does that compile? No. No, of course not. Yes, stray character in program. Now what we got here? Input control enter. Input control enter. Is it return or something? I know we use this for something else further down. It is return. Okay. So inside pane, it's complaining because I think I changed the name of this. No, selected file name index. That's right. Okay, let's check. Struct pane has no member selected file name index. Isn't that what that is right there? Would help if you save the file. Very important. Save your files, kids. Ah, right, we don't have the source file path anymore, so we need to do the same trick as we did up here. Boop. Get rid of that. And we instead want this to be what we are selecting. Oh, this rendering is driving me nuts. Here, just pop that in there. Just get rid of that. Okay. Should be good to go. I anticipate no problems. Okay. Feeling confident, not even going to bother starting it inside the debugger. Now, I believe it's Control F. Select a file 1, select a file 2, select a file 1. Press enter. Interesting. Something happened. I'm not sure it was a good thing. Oh, okay, now we have something visible in the middle of the screen. But it didn't even change. It didn't even change the selected thing, which is no good. Oh, it's still in the selected window. Ah. Okay, so it's not redrawing when we're pressing keys. That's something that should happen. And it's also not apparently recognizing enter. So I probably could have kept that running, but never mind, I didn't. Why do we have the same piece of code on both of the sides of the screen? Okay. So we're getting into this section here, but it was not triggering input controls. Input control return is down. Or if it was, it wasn't changing the file. Also, when we opened the pane, it was not redrawing the screen, so that's something else that should happen. And the code for making that happen is this little line here. It should really be like a function, probably. Okay, we need to redraw the screen under that situation. And we also need to redraw it pretty much in any of these cases, which is kind of annoying. So this one should already work because it's got redraw built into it, which I don't know, I'm not sure that's necessarily a good idea, because I don't like the fact that it's different to all the other cases. What I actually think I want to do is just do that. Say we're going to redraw the screen, and the only case we don't redraw the screen is here. The only problem with that is it now actually clears this. What I was going to do is just invert this logic, but the problem is if it already decided to redraw the screen further above this code, then I would have just wiped that out. So that's no good. So the question is, why is switch to source file not working? Switch to source. Switch source to. Let's find the definition of that. So we come in, we find, haha. It doesn't quite do what I thought it did. That's why. What it should do is set this to source file name index like this first. Yeah. I don't know why, but I feel like I should pop this one up here, like this. Yeah, I quite like that. So once this is done, the only thing left to do would be just like draw the list of files in the pane and actually highlight the currently selected line. I think that's all. I really need to reduce some of this debug logging because it's actually making the app a bit slow to start. So Control F, we get a pane. We can select standard def, hit enter, it changes to standard def. Right, that's the other thing. So it is working now, and let me see if the plus and minus, oh no, okay. Plus and minus are still working. That's also good. The thing I forgot to do, which I thought a minute ago I need to remember to do this, but then predictably I forgot to remember, is that when you hit enter you also want to go out of the pane, you want to cancel the mode. So actually want to do most of the things you've got in here. You need to grab that. Okay, so that should be most of that. Now we've got a render pane, something along those lines. Okay, render pane here. I think now would be a good time to just like stick this on the left side of the screen or something. Is that a thing you can do? Yeah, it is. And then let's try starting up the program. Still on the right hand side of the screen? Yes, I can. Stick it into the pane draw mode. Okay. Render goop. I like that. Just going to render goop all over the screen. Okay. Almost correct. Let's grab that. Where are my render things? They're here. Okay, so we need a render group. We need a pane. We need a main. We need a rect. Rect. What do we need the main for? Some of these don't have a main, some of them do. Okay. This, I think, will need main because it's going to need to get the executable for the list of things. So let's just find that again and make that a main memory pointer. Okay. So I think there's kind of like a bunch of boilerplate here. I'm going to put the clipping rectangle for the pane in. Like this. This is called content bounds, okay. It's fine. So this is just going to restrict all the drawing to be within the actual pane bounds. Then we want, what do we want to draw? I think I want to draw a border around it, so I think it's a push rect. Render group, content bounds, this is like whether it's filled or not. I think false, and then I think the color I just want to be white. Text color. Let's just kind of see what colors I've got available. Color white, okay, that's what I called it. And then I just want to quickly check. Is this what I called it? Push rect. SDL. Surely this is part of SDL. No. Renderer? Render group maybe. Push rect. So whether or not it's filled right, I just want to check that I had it the other way around. So it wants to be an outline. Maybe I should just create a cool push rect outline just to kind of shortcut that. Make it more understandable, but no, okay, so we want the outline, and then on top of that we want to draw the list of lines. So I'm just going to grab the text boilerplate here. Which I think is like this stuff here. I'm going to pop that on top. So we've got the text height, we've got the baseline adjustment. I still haven't got around to kind of fixing or baking that in. I don't think we need a subline offset because we're not doing smooth scrolling on this pane, at least not at the moment. Line P. I think text P is where you draw the text, and line P is like for the outline of the text. Like if you so like the cursors and things, like this one up here. It starts at top left is line P, so I'm going to need that as well. But yeah, no, I think that's right. I think we can just ignore the subline offset though. But that doesn't look right actually. Right, I think maybe, yeah, we advance both of them simultaneously, so that subline offset doesn't matter since we don't have one. think that's what we want. And every time I draw a line, I can just like increment both of those by the line advance. So just push it around rectangle, then we do push text. Let's write a text line and group. And then font. Do we have the font already? It's going to be Pane font, I think. And then the actual text we want. Source file name. And then what's next? Ah, going blind. Length. Should be, I think it's the length of the string. It's easier to see strings at the moment, so just drill in that. And then the position is going to be the text P. And then the color is going to be white. That's fine. Then I want to do... So I want to loop through each of them. Maybe I'll just try and see whether this compiles and whether it draws something slightly different on the right hand side of the screen. There we go, just erroneous semicolon causing issues. Good that there's only a compile error though. Right, now we have a border, but that border is inset because I think the content gets inset. Do I like that? I think that's fine. That's fine for now. Maybe I'll change that in a minute. So here we want to go through each of the source file names. So let's just go through them like this. Source file name index is less than source file name count. Go through each of them, then draw them, and then we're going to draw like an outline around it. If source file name index equals the selected file name index, then we'll just do a push rect here. I'm just going to leave this commented out for now. Let's at least get this bit working. So if we do that, it should, well, we need to kind of get a char star here of the source file name, which is going to be equal to, we're going to have to look it up inside main executable debug info. Is it dot source file names? Then we need the source file name index here, right? That might be a dot, that debug info one, I can't remember. So just to grab out these things, we're going to need the source file name count, and we're going to need the, that's it, isn't it? We're going to need the source file name, sorry, selected file name index as well in a second. But for now, let's just grab that out of the debug info, which will be at main executable debug info source file name count, I think it's called. Yeah, this one. Seems good. Let's try compiling that. Hopefully we'll just get a list popping up, well, mashed on top of each other. Yep. So that's what I expected, just like advance the text P Y value by the text height. And that should spread them all out. Okay. I do think I want to put that border around the window. So we could do rect inset. Where's rect inset? I'm feeling that's in math.cpp. Is there an outset? I think it would only have been set to inset for a negative value anyway, but just kind of prefer to do that. Like to kind of name it in a way that makes sense, but I guess it will make sense. So here where we do this push rect, we've got to do it before we do the clip, because we're going to actually draw outside the content bounds for this. We do rect inset here. I think you need a v2 just to do like -10, -10. That should put the border a little further out and it won't be flush with the text anymore. Okay. We could also pop a title on the front here, so I mean, this is kind of hacky because it relies on the knowledge of this padding. And actually, there's a kind of little bit at the bottom here. A little extra piece of padding. I'm not really sure what that's for. Maybe it's related to the title? I don't know. Let's have a quick look. Layout content in pane. What's bar bounds? Oh, we do pass this in, this title bar. We do subtract the title bar away from the bounds, so this title bound should not overlap content thing. It does attempt to take that into account, it's just doing it incorrectly, I think. Like, this bounds here seems larger for a start. It's kind of offset a little bit as well. I don't know. Layout. Title bar. Just looking through here, I'm trying to work out what this is all doing. Bar padding, so it's giving a quarter of a text height or line advance. So this varies with font size. It's padding it out by a certain amount. Saying the height of the bar is equal to that plus the padding. Only once though. I think it would try and double pad it there. Okay, then it's subtracting that from top left. Why? Pane bounds. This is not making much sense to me. Yeah. That needs to go over. I think I need to just write a note in here. Let's not worry about that for now. I think the next thing to do is just to get this functional so that it's showing the correct thing, which is just this piece of code I was going to write. So I need to get the selected file name index. So that's main. No, that's pane. selected file name index. Okay, maybe it's not worth pulling that into a local, I don't know. Let's do it anyway. So if they are equal, then we're going to draw a rectangle from line P so I need to do rect top left, bottom right. I can't see anything. So top left is going to be line P. Oh, I want to do top left dim actually. So this is specify the top left point, which is our line P point, then specify the width and height. Now the height is easy because that is the text height. The width is the width of our pane, so is there a rect width or something? Get dim. Go and get dim. So I'm going to pull this out as well and have a pane width. Maybe make it pane dim. Oops. Did things with keys. This is the problem sometimes with command mode, or having a modal text editor. Sometimes you press the wrong keys in command mode. Okay, so we're going to push in a rectangle, then we're going to say, is it filled? We've been using filled things before, so I think yes, we'll make this filled. And colour, we should probably use the same selection colour that we used before. Which, we'll just flip this back to break.cpp. At the top there should be some lovely colours defined. Colour cursor is the one that makes sense, which is that kind of purpley colour. So I can change it to whatever. I think I just decided this is going to be a solid thing, so it means it needs to go and be drawn before the text itself. So let's pop it up there. And then we need to make sure we take the line P and advance that by the text height as well. So that should provide us a little selection bar. If it compiles, which it didn't. Can it convert V2 to U32? That's right, this is a V2. Quite correct. Well done, compiler. Have a cookie. Right, so now when I switch over to this one, if I go up and down, I should be able to select which file I want, hit enter, and it goes there. Okay, that's fine. I think it needs a title to say what it is. I think it needs to change its height depending on the content. Something I haven't really worked out. None of the other panes do that. But it would be good to kind of auto size. It just happens that none of these are too long to scroll off the side, which is kind of lucky. Oops, yes, it's the watch window, fine. Okay, so that's the first pass. Now, let me have a quick think. How am I going to do auto-sizing? Because to do auto-sizing you need to know how big the content is. At the moment we only work out how big the content is when we render the pane. Now rendering really is kind of a prepare for render, we just put things on a command queue. But all the layout is done. Yeah, so auto-sizing won't really work for the other panes. The only reason it makes any sense for this pane is because it's not attached to like a predefined layout. So if we look at the way things work here, if I press W, it opens the watch window, and that consumes like a certain percentage of the screen, and then the other panes contract, so they don't overlap. So that's not really conducive. Like the fact it needs to fill all the space and it's controlled by a percentage, it's not conducive with like auto sizing things. But maybe there is certainly a way you could do that, because there doesn't have to be a percentage, that's just the way it works now. It could be like one of the panes is set to fill the remainder of the space, and another pane could be set to like I'm constant size, depending on my content or something like that. But that's not how I'm doing it. But this file select pane is not in that content system. It's not in the layout. It's just a separate, and it's given its own space, and it can overlap the other things. Now that may not stay the case, but at the moment that is true. Excuse me. Feels like a 2-pass system is required. The first pass that kind of measures how big the content is, and the second which renders it. Otherwise you don't necessarily know where on screen you're rendering. You could render it into a kind of off-screen kind of space or something, where everything's 0 offset, and then just move it around depending on where you want the pane to be. So like these push rects and things would not really go onto the render group. They would go somewhere intermediary space, and then you just like, after you've decided where it's going to be on screen, you can offset it to that and then push it to the render group. That sounds a bit complicated though. I must be fairly straightforward. So I think the thing to do here is just to like do a dim, so a v2 measure file select pane content. Then we could just say, okay, let's grab out the source file name count here. We can have our v2 results. So the y value is really easy to calculate, because result.y is just equal to the source file name count multiplied by the text height, which we can just work out as being that. Okay. So result X is more complicated because we need to go through and measure the widths of all of these things. And you know, I don't actually think I have any code that does that at the moment. So I'm gonna write a to-do for that. Just keep that as a 200, which is what it currently is. And I'll leave it to do here. I'm not even sure this auto size thing's going to stick around, but if it does, once we have a function that measures the width or length, so the pixel of a line of text in a given font. So with that, we can which is quite annoying actually, because you need to work out the size of the whole pane. Which means adding on the inset and the title if it's there. So that's kind of this layout content stuff. Kind of want this, instead of render pane, you want like measure pane, and it will go through and say which pane are we, call the correct layout, the correct measure function, and then apply like this on top, like the size required for the title bar and the size required for the insets. But for now, what I'm going to do is add another to do here, because again this is a kind of temporary stuff. I don't want to make it too complicated. If we make this a real thing, we need to separate out the calculations for adding the border padding, adding the padding, and title bar space. But at the moment I'm just going to bake that in and say plus 20 plus 20. It's not going to quite work, but it'll do for now. I'll put the do in here. Note the plus 20 baked in here. Should be moved out. It is to take into account the padding. Like the place at which these things are going to be called is probably going to be different. So where we currently have 200, 400 somewhere later in the file, that should actually be measure. I think we need the file select pane. Well, it's certainly done something. I wouldn't say it's quite the right amount. It seems like it's double, actually. I wonder if I did my plus 20 in the wrong place. Let's have a quick look at the measure. And that should be right? Source file name count. Just have a little experiment here. I should just make it change by a tiny amount. Yeah. So that seems like it was correct, but this text height, maybe this text height is not right somehow. It should be. It's what I'm using down here to advance the cursor. Oh lordy, where do I use this? Is it the only place I use rect center dim? Surely not. What did I write that for? I didn't write that for this. Rect center dim looks incorrect. I think I wrote it back a while. Oh no, I did write it for this, but yeah, okay, right. So the problem here is I haven't halved the dimension here. So I should probably just do like half dim, B2 half dim equals 0.5 times dim. I'm like adding it on one side and taking it off the other side, where it should only be half of it. It's actually a bug in my math, because I wrote it far too quickly apparently. This means that my pane's not going to be quite wide enough as 200, so here we go. So this should really be 400 to get the same height we had before, same width we had before. Now, is there? I think one of the lines is not being shown because of this extra bit of padding, which you can see here is being added on the end. It's affecting the clip. So how big is that? That's this title bar height, which is line advance plus bar padding. So it's 1.25 line advance. So line advance is probably 20, so let's call it 25. Just hard coding it because it's just all need fixing at some point. Yeah, it looks right. Is a fudge amount. Fidge amount? What's a fidge amount? Which is currently broken. All kinds of broken. We can remove the fudge once it is fixed. Because this pane isn't even supposed to have a title at the bottom, I don't think. Or if it does, I don't know. Maybe it should have one because we need to like save, but maybe it should be at the top. I think maybe it should have one, but let's see. This is called the file select pane, right? See where this is initialized here. I set the title to nothing, but I think what it actually should be is I'm going to duplicate a string so we don't have a hot reload problem, because we don't want static strings. But we can be like select source file or something. I think once that's done, this will be my last thing to do. That won't run again, I don't think, because initialize only runs when the program starts, so what we need here is probably to restart. Let's just pop this over here. Yeah. So I don't like that title being at the bottom, but it'll do for now. Oh, well, that's the thing. I think that's where I'm going to finish it, that piece of kind of slightly dodgy UI work. So, thanks for joining me or watching on the video on demand, if that's what you've done. And I'll be back again possibly tomorrow to do some more. What I will work on next, I'm not quite sure. Got a whole load of things. I might do some more UI cleanup to get rid of some of these bugs and weirdnesses. Perhaps doing a bit of layout, and maybe refine this pane. I don't want to spend too long on it because there's a lot of core debugger functionality I want to get working. I do want to improve the thread view. This one, where when you start the program, like some of these symbols here, we could do a better job, just because this symbol, this location that's on stack frame 2 is not in the debug information. Doesn't mean we have no idea where it is. We can actually look up the raw symbol information out of the ELF file or various ELF files, and make at least a decent guess at what library that's in, possibly what function it's in. Yeah, so I want to do a little bit of that, but I also want to look at improving or testing out the multi-threaded support. I want to do some more stuff on breakpoints and stepping through breakpoints in different ways. So at the moment you can just do a single instruction step, which is what ptrace gives you, but I'm interested to try out a step to next line or some stuff like that. I have some ideas about how you could make debugging a little bit more convenient, like being able to set up functions that you don't want to step into normally, and have like a special step that steps into them anyway, but then just have ones which are ignored. So like often you will be doing calculations with, say, create a vector here or add these things together, and they'll be inline in some other thing you're trying to debug, and you don't actually want to step into that bit, or you don't want to step into like printf or something. So the idea that maybe you could set up some things you would want to ignore, or maybe just provide clearer visual feedback on what is going to be stepped into. I also want to do some stuff with the watch window where potentially you can have watches that appear, you can press a button and toggle watches to actually put inline in the code. I also want to make the disassembly appear inline in the code as well, if you'd like that. And I want to do a memory view as well, so you can do the browsing of memory. So I've got all of the infrastructure for showing memory because that's what the watch window uses, but I haven't got an actual memory browser, which is more of a piece of UI work. So loads of things I have to choose from, and that's just scratching the surface. There's just so much stuff. But I'd like to kind of get to some more interesting features, so maybe going and revisiting debug steps and breakpoints would be the next thing. I'm kind of keen to get something actually useful or somehow better than what I've seen in other debuggers working. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up, and Thanks for watching, bye.